Hello everyone, and welcome back to Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64. I am one wild sheep yet again, and if you remember in the last part, we sort of ignored this Gruntilda thingy completely. So what we had to do by here is simply ground pound the eyes down, and we get ourselves a fantastic Jiggy for very little effort. Yes. But anyway, folks, today we're going to be taking on Bubble Gloop Swamp, one of my personal favorite levels in this entire game, and all I can say about it is it has fantastic atmosphere, it has fantastic music, and it has a power-up that, well, it's going to be very useful throughout the course of the entire game. We're going to be using this power-up quite a bit. In fact, one thing about the power-ups that I find really weird is that all these power-ups that we're learning in this game, they eventually become normal moves, like in the second game. So when you get to Banjo-Kazooie, everything you learn in this game, you have from the very get-go, which I kind of like, because you don't see many games these days where all the power-ups return in the sequel, you know? But here we are, these are the power-ups, you need to basically use them to go across dangerous obstacle floors. For example, marshland, because inside marsh floor there are piranha things. I want to nibble on your feet. So they'll help out greatly with that. She's attending Cauldron College. You won't believe that Gruntilda's party trick is blowing balloons up with her butt. Well, you gotta make use of that methane somehow, I suppose. Insert fart joke here. Seriously though, I just love this next upcoming level. The music alone is just fantastic. And this is a swamp level, ladies and gentlemen, hence the name, Bubble Gloop Swamp, duh. And normally in video games, swamp levels tend to be very bland. They tend to be very boring. But I really feel that Rare did such a good job of this level. It doesn't feel like a traditional swamp level, you know? It obviously has all the swamp tropes, like all the swamp-based enemies and what have you, but I digress. Anyway, whenever you enter the level, just walk behind you and you'll run into good old bottles here. And we'll be getting our wellies, basically, our Wellington boots. What does the game call these things? I wasn't actually paying attention then. I forget, but basically we can traverse over dangerous floors, you know? But you might be wondering, what am I doing? I'm leaving the level. Why am I leaving the level? Good reason. There's a good reason for it. Well, whenever you, basically I need to go on that level to unlock the Wellington boots, right? But if you remember, I pointed out there's Wellington boots inside this little log cavern here. We're going to be using these right now because this will save us a little bit of backtracking a little bit later down the line. Because behind the entrance to Bubble Gloop Swamp, there's actually a very small cavern. And you can basically walk into this cavern, and you do need to go in here because the entrance to the next world is actually inside this area. So you do need to come in here. But you need the Wellington boots to get in here. So first things first, we go in here and activate the puzzle. But there's two reasons in particular why we need to be in this room. Apart from, well, there's one reason apart from the puzzle. And that's because there's actually an ice block hidden around in this room that we need to break open. Because we actually need to use the power-up that we learn in Bubble Gloop Swamp. Not power-up, the transformation we get in Bubble Gloop Swamp to enter a brand new room of the castle, which is basically a dead end, but you get something nifty, shall we say, for going in there. So just run up this hill and just break the giant ice block boulder of iciness. How cool! But yeah, the next world is the ice level, and honestly, it's probably my favorite level in the entire game because it's so upbeat. I don't want to talk too much about it for now, but trust me, we'll be getting to it. Don't you worry your pretty little heads about it. I have to say as well, if you notice, every time you have certain power-ups, depending on what type of power-ups they are, a different rendition of the Banjo-Kazooie theme will play as well. Like, for example, a swamp-based version of the Banjo theme will play if you use the Wellington. And if you use, like, a speed-up shoes, which again, way later down the line, then you'll have this up-tempo version. I don't know, it's just sound design that I like, you know. I can't stress enough, Grant Kirkhope did a fantastic job with this game. Anyway, to start things off, you're going to want to shoot an egg inside this giant crocodile's mouth. Actually, these crocodiles sort of remind me of that old board game, Hungry Hungry Hippos. I don't know, maybe it's because they flap open their mouth and closes it like that. I don't know, I always get Hungry Hungry Hippo vibes off these goons. I don't know if I'm the only one with that. But yeah, you're going to need to shoot eggs into their mouths whenever their mouths are open, and they will teleport to a brand new place where you, again, need to hunt them down, shoot eggs into their mouth, and I think there's 4 or 5 times you need to rinse and repeat this until you get yourself a glowing golden Jiggy. Another mechanic that's introduced in this world are timed Jiggies. Basically, you're going to find a Jiggy switch in a couple of places in this world, basically here and one other place, and a timer will pop up, which means you need to traverse your way all the way up to the Jiggy before the time limit runs out. Using a Nintendo 64 controller, this is frustrating. Very frustrating. Well, if you're not used to the controls, when you get used to the controls of the game, and trust me, the controls are pretty much perfect. Honestly, I would say this is the best controlling 3D platformer I've ever played. But because the N64 analog stick, like I brought up beforehand, it's not the best. So if you're playing this on like an emulator or on the Xbox version, it's not that hard to deal with, you know. It's a very simple challenge, what can I say? But just be careful as well, because when going for that Jiggy, I do advise avoiding this crocodile mouth and avoiding the Jinjo, but don't forget to pick them up on your way back, because obviously you don't want to miss out on the Jinjo, do you? Unless you're not going for a 100% run, in which case it doesn't really matter. Oh no! So yeah, this is a piranha water. If you jump in, they will try to nibble at your tootsies, which is not a good thing, you know, ladies and gentlemen. But now we're going to have a little mini boss battle thing against the Flibbits. Now these are golden frogs, and as you saw before, frogs are like the main bad mook in this world. And what I recommend is using a jump peck attack to take these guys on, just because your jump peck attack's a lot more powerful than your normal attack. Like, it has the same power as the beak barge attack, but it's a little bit more quicker. So I like to use this whenever I have to inflict a lot of damage. But yeah, this is actually a very easy little mini battle thing. It's just tedious when they're jumping away from you. Come back and accept your fate, god damn it. Yes. But I digress. There he goes, another fantastic Jiggy for us. Yes. Oh. But yeah, seriously, why aren't games like this a thing anymore? I honestly, like, at the time of this recording, I'm saying that because with Playtonic's games, new games coming out and whatnot, 3D platformers might be making a comeback, but why don't developers make games like this anymore? And they can't use the term, they can't say that it'll be unpopular, because for the love of, I know so many people who would pay to play more of these type of games. In fact, look at me, I'm backing the bloody ukulele Kickstarter for 30 quid. Well, 35 quid, but I digress. Anyway, by here, what you're going to want to do is just break open all these mud huts by using, Kazooie's usual ground pound technique. I always forget the name of these moves in terms of their official name in the game, but I always call them by what normal platformers usually call them, but so yeah, I apologize if that bugs anyone, but unfortunately, I don't care. Just ground pound all the mud huts. Once you got rid of all of them, a Jiggy will spawn as well, which is going to be very helpful. And be careful as well to pick up the Gruntilda switch in this area. We won't be able to pick up the Gruntilda Jiggy for quite a little while, I think. If I remember correctly, we won't be able to pick it up for a while, so don't worry too much about picking up the Gruntilda switch. It exists, but pick it up. Well, I mean, what I should say is pick it up, but don't worry about collecting the Jiggy itself, you know, because we're going to get that later down the line, folks, you know. Just be patient. Be patient. I know what I'm doing. I played this game more than enough times. Ah, you wee bastard. Bloody dragonflies. They're one of the more annoying enemies in the game, actually, the dragonfly mooks, because they will always pause and then just dive bomb towards you. And what I've noticed is I always get clipped by them because I am very bad at timing my my pack attack in the air against these goons. And it's the same in Banjo-Tooie as well. These enemy types aren't in Banjo-Tooie, but there's an enemy that basically acts the same way in one of the dinosaur world, Pterodactyl Land, where it's basically just a mini pterodactyl, and it'll just swoop in for you. And I have such a bad time hitting it because I just can't time my peck properly. And there's nothing about the game isn't at fault with this. This is entirely my own skill problems, but it's still annoying, you know, folks. Oh, I love this music. I can't get over the music. Seriously, Grant Kirkhope, he's like a legendary composer. Everything he's composed has pretty much turned to gold in terms of soundtrack at the very least. And if you don't believe me, just trust me. Look at every game he's composed for. They all have amazing soundtracks. Kingdoms of Amalur, which is one of his more recent ones, is just fantastic because have you heard the boss music in that? Oh my god. He's also done Cityville as well, which I laughed at originally, but then I heard the soundtrack and it's pretty good. It's pretty good considering I'm assuming it's a casual game. I actually haven't seen anything of that game, so I digress. Anyway, that is the last crocodile we have fed. So let's just grab the beautiful Jiggy. Yes. You know, one thing I like about this game is because I'm such a magpie in terms of if I see a shiny thing, I want it. So this game really does fulfill that little urge I have that if I see a shiny thing, I will do something to get hold of it, you know. Anyway, this year's tanked up. What you want to do is just ground pound all of his feet. His feet will pop into a shell, which will warm him up. Why couldn't he do this manually? I don't know. It's a video game. So just ground pound all his feet and he will spit out a Jiggy and allow you to gain entry to the inside of him. And this looks awfully not organic concerning it's the inside of a turtle, but I guess it's a kid's game. What can I say? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this year is Tip Top. Now, if anyone's knowledgeable in Rareware, what you will know from Tip Top is he's essentially, this is a cameo basically. He was a playable character in the game Diddy Kong Racing, and I think Rareware somewhere down the line wanted to sort of make this Marvel universe of video game characters at some point, but they didn't. They never really fully went through with it, which kind of saddens me. I know Playtonic Games are trying to do that, make a Marvel universe of video game characters, but you know, every now and then in the Banjo franchise and all the other Rareware franchises, you'll sometimes see cameos from other characters from other games, you know, folks. Anyway, if you're wondering what we're doing by here, basically we're playing Simon Says. We're mimicking exactly what shows up on these turtles and just ground pounding them. You know, that's all there is to it. If the violet one goes, you ground pound the violet one. If the purple one goes, you ground pound the purple one, etc., etc. It's a very simple minigame, but I am awful at it primarily because I have the attention span of a gnat. If you don't know what a gnat is, it's one of those little weird flying things that like to fly in your mouth all the time. Ugh, horrible things. But I always see, like by here, I have no idea what I'm meant to be pressing, so I always get confused and no, what am I doing? So yeah, it does give you enough attempts, so you should be able to get through this in one go or so. But honestly, it's a little annoying if you're like me. All things considered, I should not be having this much trouble. When I'm not recording this, I usually get this in 1 or 2 attempts at least, but no. As soon as the recorder plugs in, then oh snap. Oh no, he didn't. Ah well. Anyway, you can also talk to Tip Tap again anyway if you forget the combination, so Tip Tap will just remind you of the combination so you can just ground pound. I did the same thing again! Oh, sweet Jesus. I keep forgetting one of them, I don't know, I keep missing the steps. It is annoying when you don't know what you're meant to be doing here, but it's pretty fun. Of course, pay attention to the corners and whatnot of this room, because there are notes and whatnot that you need to pick up. Obviously, I picked them up the first thing I did when I came in here, but it's a little something to be noteful for, you know? Noteful for? Get it? No. Oh. I'm not gonna lie, that pun was completely unintentional, but Yeah, anyway, you're going to want to high jump off of Tip-Top's pedestal here to get hold of another glorious honeycomb piece. Oh, I can feel our health growing as already. I say as we have 2 hit points left. Actually, one nice attention to detail this game sort of has is whenever you have less hit points, you'll see the icon of Banjo and Kazooie on the top left of the screen. They will change in emotion depending on how much health they have. So, for example, if they have full health, they'll sort of smile and be like, "Yay! Look at me, I'm happy!" But if they have lower health, then they'll just sort of glare at you like, "What the fuck you doing? Come on, bruh. Can play the game better." Word. Waka waka. Waka waka word. I'm all hip, kids. I am down with the linguistics of the younger generation. Dudes. Oh, I'm stopping before I get slapped. But anyway, moving on here, this is a little area we haven't explored yet. If you notice all these sort of, I think they're tree trunks. I could be wrong. But if you look inside all of these, you will find a lot of little collectibles, usually eggs, but sometimes you can find a mumbo token, and of course that one power-up that will allow us to talk. It will allow us to walk on the dreaded marsh floor as well, so you can pick that up if you need to, the Wellingtons. Of course, we don't need to pick that up because, ladies and gentlemen, if you play this game like I do, I always save the marsh, all the collectibles that are in the swampland until after I get the transformation, because the transformation will allow me to walk into the, into the marshy ground. It will allow me to walk in there without any problems, so I like to save all these things for last, Anyway, what we gotta do by here is destroy this egg. Just blast it with a couple of attacks until it goes down. For the last one, you need to use the beak break there, because otherwise it'll just be dodgy, but inside, we hatched a Jiggy! See, all this Jiggly needs is googly eyes, and it would be perfect. Hell, everything else in the Banjo series has googly eyes. It's Rareware's, I am convinced Rareware's way to make characters in video games is simply to take an object and put googly eyes on it. For example, I got a can of Coke by here. A bit empty one, but it's a can of Coke. I could stick googly eyes on it, and there we go. I have a video game character. That's usually how Rareware deal in terms of making the game characters. I'm not complaining about it because I love that. It's such a unique thing. I really hope we get to see more googly eyes stuff in Platonic's adventures, but I digress. Fuck you, Firefly, Dragonfly. But anyway, this little area by here, it looks like a maze. It's not. It's really a straightforward path. Just continue going straight onwards and collect all of the notes in the turnings. Be careful when you are turning though, because it is quite easy to miss all these notes, because the way the camera is, it doesn't really help in terms of, it's not very good, and you can easily miss these notes basically because of the way the camera is. You can't really turn it manually. So just be a little bit patient. And you don't need to rush through this because you have more than enough time to get through this little maze sequence. So there's that. And remember how I said there's 2 of these switches? Well, here's the second one. So just ground pound it and bada bing, bada boom. There's another Jiggy. And I done fucked it up. Good going. 10 points. I had to cut that out because it's very annoying when you fall off this little platform. Just take your time. You have more than enough time to grab it, but honestly, if you fall off, it is one of the most annoying things out there because, well, I do expect you falling off and you have to run all the way around. God damn it. Believe it or not, folks, that was about 10 minutes worth of gameplay that I cut out getting back up here. So, yeah, you're welcome. But at the very end of this maze, what you get as a reward is Mumbo's hut. So you can pop in here and get our next transformation, which I believe is going to be required for the last couple of Jiggies of this world. And also, if you want, well, not if you want, you do need to pop behind it to get extra Mumbo token as well. It's a very easy Mumbo token miss, so I do advise picking it up. But remember, folks, you don't need every Mumbo token in the game, and it's a bit of a dick move hiding the honeycomb piece up here on the top of Mumbo's house. It's a bit of a dick move game. It's unfortunate I always search the top of the rooms. But yeah, don't worry about collecting all the Mumbo tokens in the game, you know. There's more than you need, so you don't need all of the Mumbo tokens in the game, which I'm so thankful for, you know, folks. And hell, the Mumbo tokens don't even return in the second game. Like, all the transformation-based stuff, it doesn't show up in the second game. Well, that's a lie. It shows up in every world in the second game, but they made it so much easier and so much better to do transformations. So, even though I do prefer this game, and I do consider this to be the best N64 game, come on, the sequel has its improvements and stuff that I like. But, I digress. Anyway, for the most part by here, like I said, we now are a crocodile. So we can now swim along in the marshy land, and the piranhas will leave us alone. Why? Because the piranhas might as well be sushi with us right now, because we're an alligator. If they go fucking with us, we go and nibble on their fins. Their finny fin. They will definitely be having some finny fun. I tell you that much. I don't know why. But yeah, I love this crocodile transformation. It's so freaking cute. I mean, look at it. But we do need to get access to this gigantic crocodile head, because there's a red croc in here. And this red croc, he is named Mr. Vile. And one thing I love about the Banjo series is, despite it's primarily at heart a collectathon 3D platformer, it does break up the pace all the time in this franchise with brand new minigames and stuff that, you know, you can just do in order to break up the pace. You know, it makes things a lot less monotonous, and it really helps the game have a bit of character, you know. But anyway, for this minigame by here, basically you just have to push the B button whenever you come up to one of these things, and you can eat them. And what your goal is basically eat more of these things than Mr. Vile there. What I advise is sort of just wander around in sort of like a counterclockwise motion throughout this entire field, and whenever you see one pop up, just go straight to it. Just start towards it, and you should have more than enough edibles than Mr. Vile here. Here's a vile one, Mr. Grinch. But one thing you need to be careful of is if you tie with Mr. Vile here, get the same score as him, you will lose. And if you lose, you will lose health. And it's frustrating because it is really challenging, but it's a good little fun, you know, it's a good side distraction. Although this minigame does have 3 major phases to it. Now we have added yellow grumblies. That's what they're called, grumblies. And basically, yellow ones are not ripe. If you try to eat the yellow ones, well, obviously you'll get sick. It's not good for your health. So avoid the yellow ones at all costs and just grab all of the red ones. If you accidentally eat a yellow one, don't worry, your score will not go down, but you will be stunned for about 2 seconds, which 2 seconds in this minigame is basically the difference between winning and losing. Also, one thing I recommend is whenever you're coming up closer, you know, close-ish to one of these grumbly things, push the B button before you reach it, because then you will be able... Basically, the hitbox of your attack is bigger than the hitbox of your body, so you'll eat it quicker, basically. That's all I can really get at, you know? But, yeah, just keep nomming on as much as you can, and hopefully, because there is a little bit of luck in this minigame as well, folks. It isn't all skill-based. Hopefully, you beat Mr. Vile. Anyway, for the third attempt, we need to take on the same minigame as the last one, except now we're going to have a little icon pop at the top and bottom of the screen. Obviously, you can only eat what's shown on the top and bottom of the screen. So right now, red grumblies, and then after a few seconds, there we go. Now we can only eat the yellow buggers, and I wouldn't really want to eat the yellow ones because they really look like vampires. They could probably eat you. Look at those fangs, they're terrifying. I mean, I love the red ones. They're like cute little cherry things. But yeah, if anyone has any idea what these things are meant to actually be, just let me know, because the only thing that's coming in my mind now is candy, like Haribo candies. That's all I can think of these things are. So I'm interested to find out if they're a real thing or not, so they're just something that Rareware made up for this game. I love the sound effects as well when you're eating them. It just, oh, it makes me hungry actually, because all you hear is, oh, it's delicious. But after that, a couple of attempts. I did actually fail this a couple of attempts, so you're seeing the successful run here. But Mr. Vile lost, and as a result, we've gotten hold of a Jiggy. But yeah, if you do lose against Mr. Vile, he will eat you a bit of your health, and you will need to leave this room and come back in to restart the entire thing again. However, now we have the ability for a harder game. Basically, we can beat him to get extra lives, or we could lose lives if we lose. I don't recommend doing this because extra lives in this game are worthless. And seriously, the extra lives are really not needed in this game. They just exist, and that's it, you know. These type of platformers, again, like I said before, I don't see the point of having extra lives, because the extra lives are just sort of there. If you die, well, everything in the level in this game particularly resets. So no matter what, you have to redo everything again. So death is literally more of a nuisance than anything. Now I'm convinced it exists just to justify having the game over cutscene that you can get, which I am showing off, ladies and gentlemen, in the extra part, because it's a game over cutscene. It's an interesting, unique little thing, so I want to show that off when I get a chance. Unless I show it off before the extra part, I could have. I can remember, it's been a long time. But anyway, next place we're going to is the area where all the mud huts were at. Basically, if you notice on the ground, underneath the circular spherical things the mud huts were on. Yeah, I'm very good with the words, aren't I? Basically, there's usually a lot of things like mumbo tokens and a lot of notes as well to pick up, so be musical genius and get on down there. The enemies will certainly be singing by the time we're done with them. And also the last Jinjo as well, which should be under there. But speaking of which, one thing I neglected over by Tanked Up is that there's actually a Jinjo behind him. I could have picked him up earlier on because there's actually Wellington boots up on top of Tanked Up that we can grab hold of, which basically allows us to jump down and go, Jinjo, yay! But, nah, I decided to save it for the Croc transformation. Like, I'm always really sequential when I'm doing this particular stage. Actually, I'm pretty sequential when I'm doing all the stages in the game. It's just, with the exception of Click Clock Wood, which was it? Click Clock Wood, yeah, that's the one. Which is the final stage where I'm really usually wing it, but yeah, I usually go in a very sequential pattern with all these worlds, and I don't know if it's just me that does that, because I always have to get one Jiggy before I get another Jiggy, and I always have to go on a set path. It could just be me. It could just be me having a bit of a funny little quirk. But I digress. Underneath this little platform by here is the last Jinjo, and with that we've gotten all 10 Jiggies. Delicious. Yes. Dragonfly versus alligator. Dragonfly wins. Who'd have thought it? So, yeah, piss off. Just leave the dragonfly alone with you, thank you. Jesus Christ. Anyway, grab all these last notes and... Seriously, I don't know... Honestly, can anyone explain to me why there's extra lives in this game? Because they're pointless, honestly. But I digress. With that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of Bubble Gloop, a swamp. So now we're going to head on back to good old Gruntilda's lair and actually head on to a hidden room where we can meet up with a new character, ladies and gentlemen. A brand new character who's going to be very beneficial to us in the long run. What can I say? At least, I think this is the first time seeing that character. Yeah, this is the first appearance of that character. So yeah, we're going to be meeting a new character. Is going to be very important. But we're going to be doing that next time, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Don't be sheepish, people. I'll catch you all then. Bye!